First contact in the Crimson Desert. Space is silent. Commander Eliza Reeves knew this fundamental truth, yet when the Odysseus dropped out of hyperspace above Tharsis 9, she could have sworn she heard something. A whisper, perhaps, or a distant call. She dismissed it as her mind playing tricks after 3 months in deep space. Orbital insertion complete, Commander. Lieutenant Park announced from the navigation console. We're stable at 20,000 kilometers. Reeves nodded, her gaze fixed on the main viewport. Tharsis 9 filled the view, its surface a swirling tapestry of crimson and amber. Massive dust storms raged across the equatorial regions, occasionally illuminated by static discharges that resembled neuronal firings in some vast planetary brain. "Looks angry," said Dr. Maya Hernandez, the expedition's xenobiologist, who had joined Reeves at the viewport. "Hard to believe the preliminary probes detected biological markers down there." "Life finds a way," Reeves replied, "even in the harshest environments." The Odysseus was humanity's most advanced exploratory vessel, dispatched to investigate an anomalous energy signature detected by automated survey drones. Earth's resources were dwindling after centuries of exploitation, and the United Earth government was desperate to find new habitable worlds, or at least planets with exploitable resources. Captain Ishiro Tanaka approached, data tablet in hand. "The latest atmospheric readings confirm what we suspected. Surface conditions are brutal, temperatures exceeding 50 degrees Celsius, wind speeds topping 300 kilometers per hour during storms, and the air is mostly nitrogen with trace argon and methane. Not exactly prime real estate," Hernandez murmured. "And yet," Tanaka added, "the energy readings are consistent and growing stronger. Whatever's down, there isn't natural." Reeves straightened her uniform. "Prepare the Sandpiper for descent. I want a ground team ready in 30 minutes. "In this weather?" Tanaka looked skeptical. "The meteorological team identified a narrow window of calm between storm fronts," Reeves explained. "It won't last long, but it should give us enough time to establish a base camp and deploy the ground-penetrating sensors." 4 hours later, Commander Reeves led a team of 6 specialists across Tharsis 9's surface in the Sandpiper, a heavily modified lander designed specifically for hostile environments. The craft skimmed just above the dunes, its repulsor engines kicking up swirling eddies of rust-colored sand. Inside, the team performed final equipment checks. Dr. Hernandez adjusted her environment suit's sensors, while Dr. Karim Nasser, the team's geologist, calibrated the ground-penetrating radar. Lieutenant Yuri Petrov and Sergeant Maria Rodriguez, the security detail, checked their weapons, standard procedure, even on supposedly uninhabited worlds. The 6th member, communications specialist Jin Wei, monitored the rapidly deteriorating conditions outside. "Commander, we got about 2 hours before the next storm front hits. After that, we're grounded for at least 18 hours. "Acknowledged. We'll make this quick," Reeves responded, her voice calm despite the pressure. The Sandpiper settled in a relatively flat area between towering dunes. Above them, Tharsis 9's twin moons hung like mismatched eyes in a burnt orange sky, one small and gray, the other larger and tinged with purple. As they disembarked, static electricity crackled across their suits. The fine dust of Tharsis 9 clung to everything, as if the planet itself was trying to absorb them. "This is incredible," Nasser said, his voice filled with wonder as he knelt to examine the sand. "These particles don't match any known silicate formation. They almost seem organized at the molecular level." "Save the science for later," Rodriguez cut in. "Let's get the sensor array deployed before we're stormbound." Working methodically, they established a perimeter of sensor spikes driven deep into the compacted sand. Each spike transmitted data to Weiss' portable command unit, building a 3-dimensional map of what lay beneath the surface. "I'm getting some unusual readings," Wei announced after 15 minutes. "There appears to be a network of caverns approximately 30 meters down, extending for kilometers in all directions." Reeves joined Y at the display. Natural formations. Not likely, Nasser interjected, studying the data over their shoulders. The structural patterns are too regular, too predictable. If I didn't know better, I'd say they were artificial. Artificial, Rodriguez echoed. As in, someone built them. Or something, Hernandez added quietly. The implications hung in the dusty air between them. The discovery of extraterrestrial intelligence would be monumental and potentially dangerous. The energy signature is strongest here, Wei said, pointing to a section of the display. Directly beneath us, approximately 50 meters down. Is there an entrance nearby? Reeves asked. Wei manipulated the controls, enhancing the resolution. Possibly. There's an anomaly about 200 meters northeast that could be an access point. Let's check it out, Reeves decided. Petrov, Rodriguez, take point. Everyone else, stay alert. They trudged across the sand, each step requiring effort against the planet slightly higher than Earth gravity. The anomaly turned out to be a perfectly circular depression in the sand, approximately 10 meters across. It's too perfect to be natural, Nasser observed. Some kind of access shaft, maybe. As if in response to his words, the sand in the depression began to shift, spiraling downward like water draining from a sink. The team retreated several steps, weapons raised instinctively. Hold fire, Reeves ordered sharply. We don't know what we're dealing with. The sand continued to drain away, revealing the smooth, metallic surface beneath. With a soft hiss, a seamless iris opened in the center of the metal disc, exposing a dark shaft descending into the planet. Well, Hernandez whispered, I think someone knows we're here. Before anyone could respond, a column of soft, amber light shot up from the opening, enveloping the team. Reeves felt a strange, tingling sensation as the light swept over her, neither painful nor pleasant, simply alien. The light vanished as suddenly as it had appeared, leaving the team blinking in its aftermath. Rodriguez was the first to recover, raising her rifle. Commander, what just happened? I believe we were scanned, Reeves replied, fighting to keep her voice steady. Someone, or something, is checking us out. From the depths of the shaft, a low humming sound emerged, growing progressively louder. Then, with graceful deliberation, a figure rose into view, suspended in the air as if gravity was optional. The being was humanoid but clearly not human. Standing nearly 2 meters tall, its body was covered in what appeared to be overlapping plates of a crystalline material that shifted colors with every movement, predominantly in shades of amber and deep red. Where a human would have a face, this being had a smooth, reflective surface that rippled like liquid metal. Holy shit, Petrov breathed. It's real. The being tilted its head, the movement oddly bird-like. From its featureless face, a melodic series of tones emerged, rising and falling in complex patterns. Wei frantically adjusted her communications equipment. I can't translate this. It's unlike any language structure in our database. The alien extended a 4-fingered hand, each digit ending in a crystalline point that caught the light of Tharsis IX's setting sun. In its palm, a small orb materialized, glowing with the same amber light that had enveloped them moments earlier. I think it wants to communicate, Hernandez suggested. Reeves stepped forward cautiously, her hand raised in what she hoped was a universal gesture of peace. We come from Earth. We mean no harm. The alien's faceless head tilted again, and the orb in its hand pulsed rhythmically. Suddenly, Reeves felt a pressure in her mind, not painful but insistent, like fingers gently pressing against her thoughts. It's trying to establish some kind of mental link, she gasped. Images flooded her consciousness. A vast underground city, crystalline structures pulsing with energy, thousands of beings like the one before her moving through cavernous spaces. She saw machines beyond human understanding, technologies that seemed to manipulate reality itself. And beneath it all, a sense of desperation, of impending doom. As abruptly as it began, the connection severed. Reeves staggered, nearly falling, only to be caught by Rodriguez. "Commander, are you all right?" the sergeant asked, concern evident in her voice. "Yes," Reeves managed, steadying herself. I saw things. Their civilization. They call themselves the Xorians, and they've lived beneath the surface for millennia." "You understood them?" Wei asked incredulously. "Not words, exactly. Concepts, impressions." Reeves turned back to the alien. "They're facing some kind of crisis. That's why their energy output has been increasing. They're preparing for something." The Xorian made a gesture with both hands, and the shaft widened. More aliens rose from below, each carrying devices of unknown purpose. "I think they're inviting us down," Hernandez suggested. Nasser checked his environmental readings. Storm front approaching faster than predicted. "We have maybe 30 minutes before it hits." Reeves faced a commander's dilemma: retreat to safety or seize this unprecedented opportunity. The decision wasn't difficult. "Wei, contact the Odysseus. Inform them we've made first contact and are proceeding with diplomatic engagement. Petrov, Rodriguez, you're with me. Hernandez, Nasser, return to the Sandpiper and secure it against the storm. We'll stay in constant communication." "Commander," Rodriguez protested, "we have protocols for first contact situations. Splitting the team isn't recommended." "Noted, Sergeant, but we may not get another chance." Reeves turned to the waiting Xorians. "We accept your invitation." The descent into the Xorian underworld was surreal. The aliens created a floating platform of amber energy that carried Reeves, Petrov, Wei, and Rodriguez downward through a shaft that seemed to extend for kilometers. The walls around them were not rough-hewn rock, but perfectly smooth, inscribed with geometric patterns that occasionally pulsed with light. As they descended deeper, the air grew warmer and surprisingly humid. Wei's instruments indicated a breathable atmosphere, though rich in unfamiliar trace elements. "Commander," Wei whispered, "I'm detecting massive energy signatures all around us. Whatever powers their civilization, it's beyond anything in our technological understanding." "Keep recording everything," Reeves instructed. "This is the discovery of the millennium." The shaft opened into a vast cavern that took their breath away. Stretching for kilometers in every direction, a city of crystalline towers rose from the cavern floor, connected by bridges of solid light. Thousands of Xorians moved through the space, some walking, others floating effortlessly. The entire cavern was illuminated by a network of what appeared to be artificial suns, suspended at regular intervals throughout the ceiling. "My God," Petrov breathed. "It's beautiful." Their Xorian guide, Reeves had privately named it Ambassador in her thoughts, led them to a central structure that resembled a massive geode, its exterior rough and mundane, its interior visible through an open section and glittering with millions of crystalline formations. Inside, a circle of Xorians awaited them, each distinguished by more elaborate crystal formations on their bodies. Reeves sensed these were leaders or elders of some kind. Ambassador approached the circle and made a series of musical tones. The assembled Xorians responded in kind, creating a harmonic chorus that resonated through the chamber. "I think we're being formally introduced," we suggested. One of the Xorian elders stepped forward, its crystalline body shifting to a deep blue hue. It extended both hands, and between them, a large three-dimensional image formed, a perfect representation of Tharsis 9, with a massive swirling vortex approaching from space. "What is that?" Rodriguez asked, pointing to the vortex. Before anyone could speculate, the elder Xorian touched the image, and it expanded to show the vortex engulfing the planet. In the simulation, the surface of Tharsis 9 blackened and cracked, the destruction reaching down to the Xorian city itself, which shattered and went dark. "I think," Reeves said slowly, "they're showing us what they're afraid of. Some kind of natural disaster headed for the planet." Wei examined her instruments. "Commander, I'm detecting unusual quantum fluctuations throughout their technology. It's as if they're manipulating subatomic particles directly. The elder Thorian approached Reeves and extended a crystalline hand toward her face, stopping just short of touching her. The silent question was clear. "I think it wants to communicate with me directly again," Reeves said. "Commander, I strongly advise against it," Rodriguez warned. "We don't know the long-term effects of such contact." "Noted, Sergeant, but we need to understand what they're trying to tell us." Reeves met the faceless gaze of the Thorian elder and nodded once. The connection was immediate and far more intense than before. Reeves gasped as information flooded her mind. Complex scientific concepts, historical events spanning millennia, and above all, a desperate plea for help. When the connection broke, Reeves fell to her knees, overwhelmed. The Thorians made no move to approach, giving her space to recover. "Commander," Wade knelt beside her. "Are you all right?" "Yes," Reeves managed, her voice hoarse. "I understand now. The vortex is what they call a void storm, a quantum anomaly that devours matter and energy. It's heading directly for Tharsis 9, and will arrive in less than an Earth month." "Can they evacuate?" Petrov asked. Reeves shook her head. "Their physiology is uniquely adapted to this planet. They cannot survive elsewhere. They've been building a planetary shield, but their calculations show it won't be strong enough. They need our help. Specifically, they need access to a material that's common on Earth, but absent here." "What material?" Wei asked. "Titanium," Reeves answered. "Apparently, its atomic structure, when properly aligned, can enhance their quantum field generators exponentially." Petrov looked skeptical. "So they want us to give them titanium?" "That's it. Not just titanium," Reeves explained, "but our knowledge of metallurgy and engineering. They're proposing a collaboration." Rodriguez remained suspicious. "And what do we get out of this arrangement?" Reeves stood, facing her team. "Access to technology centuries beyond our own. Knowledge that could solve Earth's energy crisis permanently, and allies in a universe we're just beginning to explore." The diplomatic talks continued for hours, with Reeves serving as the primary conduit of communication. The Thorians, recognizing the limitations of their psychic connection, created a rudimentary translation device that converted their tonal language into basic English words and phrases. As trust grew, the Thorians revealed more about their civilization and the crisis they faced. The void storm was not a natural phenomenon, but the consequence of an experiment gone wrong centuries ago. A failed attempt to create a sustainable energy source that had instead torn a hole in the fabric of space-time. "So this is their fault," Rodriguez muttered during a brief recess. "An ancestral mistake," Reeves corrected. "And they've spent generations trying to contain it. Now it's breaking free, and without our help, this entire civilization will be destroyed." Their discussions were interrupted by an urgent communication from the Odysseus. "Commander," Captain Tanaka's voice crackled through Wei's communicator. "The storm has intensified beyond predictions. The Sandpiper reports severe damage to its propulsion systems. Dr. Hernandez and Dr. Nasser are stranded until repairs can be made or a rescue craft deployed." Reeves exchanged glances with her team. "Understood, Captain. The Xorians might be able to help. They have transportation technology that could retrieve our people." "Commander," Tanaka sounded hesitant. "Earth Command has been notified of our first contact. They're concerned about the level of technology you're describing. They've ordered a cautious approach, with minimal sharing of Earth technology, until a formal diplomatic mission can be arranged." Reeves felt a surge of frustration. "With respect to Earth Command, there isn't time for bureaucratic procedures. This civilization faces extinction within weeks." "Those are your orders, Commander," Tanaka replied firmly. As the communication ended, Reeves noticed the Xorian elder watching her, its faceless head tilted in what she had come to recognize as curiosity. Using the crude translator, the elder spoke. "Your leaders fear us." "Not fear, exactly," Reeves tried to explain. "Caution. It's our first encounter with an advanced alien civilization. Time short, the translator conveyed the elder's response. Storm comes. Decision needed. I know, Reeves said, making her decision. We'll help you. Whatever Earth Command says, we can't stand by and watch your civilization be destroyed when we have the means to prevent it. The elder's crystalline body shifted to a warm golden hue, a sign of gratitude, Reeves had learned. As they prepared to formalize their alliance, Petrov accidentally backed into a pedestal supporting an intricate crystalline structure. The structure toppled and shattered on the floor. Instantly, the atmosphere changed. The assembled Xorians emitted sharp, discordant tones, and their bodies shifted to deep red hues. Several moved toward Petrov menacingly. What happened? Rodriguez demanded, raising her weapon defensively. That was a historical record, Reeves explained quickly, understanding flowing from her previous mental connection. The equivalent of a sacred text, it contained memories of their ancestors. Reeves stepped between Petrov and the advancing Xorians. It was an accident, she said clearly, hoping the translator would convey her sincerity. We meant no disrespect. The elder Xorian approached, its movements stiff with what Reeves interpreted as anger. Using the translator, it said, "Memories lost cannot be replaced." Thinking quickly, Reeves removed the data crystal from her suit's recording device. We have technology that records images and sounds, she explained. We've been recording everything since we arrived. These memories aren't lost. They're preserved here. She offered the crystal to the elder. After a moment's hesitation, the Xorian took it, examining it with what appeared to be specialized sensors that extended from its fingertips. Primitive, the translator conveyed, but functional. The tension eased slightly, but trust had been damaged. Reeves knew she needed to rebuild it quickly. The void storm wouldn't wait for diplomatic niceties. Let us prove our sincerity, she proposed. Allow us to help rescue our stranded team members, and then we'll begin work on the shield immediately. The Odysseus carries titanium components that can be repurposed. The elder conferred with the other Xorians, their tonal language creating a complex harmony that echoed through the chamber. Finally, it turned back to Reeves. Agreed, the translator conveyed. Alliance begins. Alliance of necessity. The Xorian transport vessel defied human understanding of physics. It didn't so much fly as fold space around itself, traversing the 30 kilometers to the stranded sandpiper in mere seconds. Dr. Hernandez and Dr. Nasser were understandably startled when the crystalline craft materialized beside their damaged lander, but Reeves's calm explanation via communicator helped ease their concerns. The storm raged above, sand particles scouring the sandpiper's hull with a sound like endless static. Inside the vessel, Hernandez had been monitoring the atmospheric conditions. It's getting worse, she reported as they boarded the Xorian transport. Wind speeds approaching 500 kilometers per hour. If we tried to leave in the sandpiper, even fully operational, we'd have been torn apart. The return journey to the underground city was instantaneous, leaving both scientists disoriented but fascinated. Nasser immediately began questioning Wei about the Xorian technology, while Hernandez stared in wonder at their crystalline hosts. They're silicon-based life forms, she whispered to Reeves. Do you realize how significant that is? All life on Earth is carbon-based. This rewrites everything we know about evolutionary biology. Reeves nodded, but her mind was on more immediate concerns. The Xorian elders had provided access to their central planning chamber, a vast spherical room where a three-dimensional model of Tharsis 9 and the approaching void storm hovered in the center, updating in real time with new data. The storm was massive, a swirling vortex of quantum energy that consumed everything in its path. According to the Xorian measurements, it would reach the planet in 23 Earth days. Captain Tanaka joined them via holographic communication, his image flickering occasionally due to interference from both the planet's storms and the strange energies permeating the Xorian city. "Commander, I've reviewed your reports and the preliminary data on the Void Storm," Tanaka said, his expression grave. "Our science team confirms the threat is real. If that thing hits Tharsis 9, it won't just destroy the planet. The resulting quantum cascade could potentially threaten nearby star systems as well." "Then you understand why we need to act," Reeves responded. Tanaka nodded reluctantly. Earth Command is concerned about sharing technology, but they granted provisional authority to provide humanitarian assistance. "We'll begin transferring the titanium components immediately." The next week passed in a blur of activity. The Odysseus deployed its shuttle fleet, ferrying titanium and other materials to the underground city. Xorian engineers, working alongside the human science team, began incorporating these materials into their existing shield generators. Dr. Nasser spent most of his time studying the Xorian quantum technology, his excitement palpable during daily briefings. "It's incredible," he told Reeves during one such meeting. "They don't just manipulate matter, they rewrite the rules of how particles interact. Their entire civilization is built on principles that our physicists have only begun to theorize about." Dr. Hernandez, meanwhile, had been invited to study Xorian biology. "They reproduce by carefully controlled energy division," she explained. "Each new Xorian retains a portion of the parent's memories. It's why that historical record Petrov damage was so important. It contained ancestral memories that hadn't been fully integrated into their collective knowledge." As the work progressed, the initial suspicion between the species began to fade. Human crew members taught Xorians about Earth culture and history, while the aliens shared insights about the universe that challenged fundamental human scientific paradigms. Not everyone embraced this cultural exchange, however. A small faction of Xorians, distinguished by deep purple crystalline formations, kept their distance from the humans. Similarly, a few crew members from the Odysseus, led by Ensign Victor Graves, expressed concerns about sharing technology with an alien species. "We know nothing about their true intentions," Graves argued during a crew meeting. "What if this Void Storm is a fabrication, a way to gain access to our technology?" "The storm is real," Reeves countered firmly. "Our own instruments confirm it." "But conveniently caused by their own ancestors," Graves persisted. "How do we know they won't create another disaster once they have our help?" Reeves dismissed these concerns publicly, but privately, she acknowledged the need for caution. She instructed Wei to maintain detailed records of all technology transfers and ensure nothing related to Earth's defense systems was shared. On the 10th day of their alliance, disaster struck. One of the primary shield generator nodes exploded, killing 2 Xorians and injuring Dr. Nasser. Initial investigations revealed sabotage. Key components had been deliberately miscalibrated. Tensions immediately escalated. The purple-hued Xorian faction accused the humans of sabotage, while Graves and his supporters suggested it was a false flag operation by the Xorians to gain sympathy. Reeves and the Xorian elder, whom she now knew as Harmonizer, worked tirelessly to maintain peace between their people. After a thorough investigation, evidence pointed to a collaborative act of sabotage. Both human and Xorian extremists working together, united in their opposition to the alliance. "They fear change," Harmonizer explained through the now advanced translator. "Your arrival has challenged our isolation. Their fear makes them dangerous." The saboteurs were identified and contained, Graves among them, but the damage was done. The SHIELD project had been set back by days they couldn't afford to lose. "We need to accelerate production," Reeves told her team. "The Odysseus will have to contribute more than just titanium. We need power cells, circuit arrays, everything we can spare." "Commander," Tanaka protested via holographic link, "that would leave us with minimal operational capacity. If anything goes wrong, if we don't stop this Void Storm, nothing else will matter," Reeves interrupted. "I'm willing to take full responsibility for this decision." With the Odysseus now committed to the project, work accelerated. The ship descended to low orbit, allowing for faster material transfers and direct power feeds to the Xorian city through advanced conduits. As the deadline approached, the shield network grew to encircle the planet, a web of interconnected nodes that, when activated, would theoretically generate a quantum barrier capable of deflecting the void storm. 15 days after first contact, with the storm now visible to the naked eye as a distortion in space, the shield was ready for its first test. Reeves stood with Harmonizer in the control chamber as the Xorian engineers initiated the power-up sequence. Around them, the crystalline technology hummed with energy, conduits glowing with increasing intensity. "Even if this works," Reeves said quietly, "it will change everything. For both our species. Change is life." Harmonizer responded, its translator now sophisticated enough to convey nuance. "Stagnation is death." The test began well. The shield generators activated in sequence, each node feeding power to the next in a cascading pattern designed to distribute the massive energy load. In orbit, the Odysseus recorded the formation of a shimmering barrier in the upper atmosphere, spreading slowly from the equator toward the poles. Then something went wrong. One of the primary nodes, located in the northern hemisphere, failed to activate properly. The energy cascade faltered, creating a dangerous feedback loop through the system. "Shut it down," Nasser shouted over the communication link. "The harmonics are destabilizing." The Xorian engineers worked frantically to contain the surge, but it was too late. A series of explosions rippled through the network, disabling nearly a third of the shield generators. In the aftermath, the situation was grim. The shield had partially formed but collapsed under its own energy demands. Worse, the explosions had damaged critical components that couldn't be easily replaced. "How long to repair?" Reeves asked during the emergency meeting that followed. "At least 10 days, Nasser replied, his arm still in a sling from his earlier injury. "Maybe more." "The void storm will reach us in 8 days, Y pointed out quietly. Silence fell over the assembled team. The Xorians' crystalline bodies had dimmed to a muted gray, a sign of deep distress, Reeves had learned. "Then we need a new approach," she said finally. "If we can't stop the storm, perhaps we can divert it." The idea came from an unlikely source. Dr. Hernandez, who had been studying Xorian reproduction methods, suggested using their quantum manipulation technology to create a smaller, controlled version of the void storm, essentially a quantum lure that might draw the larger storm away from its current path. "It's theoretically possible," Nasser agreed after reviewing the concept. "But the energy requirements would be enormous, and whoever deployed it would need to maintain precise control while staying ahead of the main storm. A suicide mission, in other words," Rodriguez said bluntly. No one disagreed. The plan took shape over the next 48 hours. A Xorian vessel, modified with additional quantum generators and piloted by a small crew, would create the lure and lead the void storm away from Tharsis 9, hopefully long enough for it to dissipate naturally. Volunteers were not in short supply. Both humans and Xorians stepped forward, willing to sacrifice themselves to save both civilizations. In the end, a joint crew was selected, 3 Xorians and 2 humans. One of the human volunteers was Lieutenant Yuri Petrov. "I broke their historical record," he told Reeves when she questioned his decision. "This is my chance to make amends." The day of launch arrived with somber ceremony. The modified vessel gleamed in the artificial light of the Xorian hangar, its hull reinforced with titanium and embedded with quantum generators. Reeves addressed the assembled crowd, humans from the Odysseus, and hundreds of Xorians gathered to witness the departure. "Today, we stand as one people," she began, the translator conveying her words in harmonic tones. "Not human, not Xorian, but sentient beings united against a common threat. These brave crew members represent the best of both our civilizations: courage, sacrifice, and hope." She turned to the volunteers. Petrov stood tall beside his Xorian counterparts, his face solemn but resolved. "Your mission is clear," Reeves continued. "Create the quantum lure, Draw the void storm away from Tharsis 9 and maintain it for as long as possible. If all goes well, the storm will follow you into deep space where it can dissipate harmlessly. What she didn't say, what everyone knew, was that the crew would not be returning. As the launch sequence began, Harmonizer approached Reeves, its crystalline form shimmering with an intensity she hadn't seen before. "Your lieutenant," it said, "his sacrifice heals old wounds and creates new bonds. Today, we become true allies." The vessel rose silently from the hangar, its quantum drive engaging with a brief flash of amber light. On the view screens, they watched it ascend through the atmosphere and into the space beyond, a tiny speck against the vast backdrop of stars. For 3 days, the mission proceeded according to plan. The vessel successfully created the quantum lure and began drawing the void storm away from its original trajectory. Regular communications confirmed that the diversion was working, though at great cost to the crew as they maintained the delicate energy balance required. Then, on the 4th day, something unexpected happened. The quantum lure, instead of simply attracting the void storm, began to affect its internal structure. The storm's energy patterns started to shift, becoming more organized, less chaotic. "It's stabilizing," NASA reported, studying the data with amazement. "The lure isn't just diverting it, it's reconfiguring the quantum field." On the 5th day, Lieutenant Petrov made his final transmission. "Commander Reeves, the Torians have discovered something remarkable. The void storm isn't just destruction, it's transformation. They believe their ancestors didn't create a mistake, but a new form of existence they weren't ready to understand. We're not running from it anymore. We're guiding it. This will be my last message. Tell Earth. Tell them we found something wonderful out here." The transmission ended. Hours later, both the vessel and the void storm vanished from all sensors, not destroyed, but transformed into something beyond their ability to detect. In the days that followed, humans and Saurians worked together to repair the shield network, not to defend against the void storm, which was no longer a threat, but to protect the planet from the harsh solar radiation that had always plagued its surface. 1 month after first contact, the shield activated successfully. For the first time in millennia, the surface of Tharsis 9 was protected from the worst of its star's output. Within hours, temperature readings began to drop. Within days, the massive dust storms started to subside. The models suggest parts of the surface could become habitable within a few years, Way reported during the final briefing before the Odysseus was scheduled to depart. The Ixorians are already planning expeditions to establish surface outposts. Reeves stood with Harmonizer at the view screen, watching as patches of the planet's eternal storms began to clear, revealing the rust-red landscape beneath. "Will your people return?" Harmonizer asked. "Yes," Reeves replied confidently. "I've already recommended the establishment of a permanent Earth embassy here. This is just the beginning of our relationship."